This is the news and talk of Texas. Now, it's the Rick Roberts Show on 820 AM, 99.5 FM, HD2, News Talk 820, WBAP.
Well, I know there's got to be a few 100 million more like me, just trying to keep it free. Yeah.
Rick Roberts starts right now.
And good afternoon, 2:03 the time. I'm Rick Roberts. This is the Monday edition of the Court of Public Opinion. Your voice, your opinion, your attitude on the issues of the day. You doing all right? You have a good weekend? Everybody have a good weekend?
Yeah, I just had a few irrigation problems, but other than that, okay.
Yeah, well, that's okay. That's all right. Irrigation problems are fine. That's
well, kind of at times.
as long as it's in your house.
No, it's outside.
No,
It's that
okay.
outdoor irrigation stuff.
How about you, Randy? Did you have a good one?
Yes, sir. I cleaned house, cleaned the truck up, and I don't have to clean house for another, 6 months now?
Well, there you go. There you go. No problem there. Yeah, Randy cleans his house once every 6 months, so it's a...
Yeah, you
kind of
think
a
it
big
lasts
deal.
longer than that, as thorough as I am.
What do you have? One of those dumpsters trucked in and rolled off the back, and you fill it up, and...
Actually, it was just accumulation of dust and, stuff like that.
All right. Are you guys okay? You ready to hit it this week?
I'm ready to rock and roll, sir.
All right.
Ready to rock and roll. And I'm
All
pretty
right.
shocked.
Here's the question. The question is, I can't rap. If I could rap, I would rap as a lead into this. As you know, I just don't rap.
You could practice. Every man's got to have a dream.
Find me a good, a dream. Find me a good rap song, Randy, if you can there. Because I'm sorry. Did you watch the Grammys last night? I forced myself to watch the Grammys. I'm not a big fan of musicians in general. I like music, but musicians are like actors. They are the goofiest group of people you'll ever meet. I mean, nice. Some of them are nice. They just, for the most part, no thanks. Well, I watched the Grammys, and while all the stars jumping around seemed to be having a good time, they seemed like they were really enjoying themselves. But of course, it was highly politicized. Viewers, you evidently weren't as having as much fun as the people on TV. Evidently, a lot of you were turned off by the night's political jabs here and there, which included a cameo from former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. It was a comedy sketch, and they were supposed to be reading. Oh, Cher was there. How old is Cher now? Like 110?
About.
Yeah. She doesn't even look like well, I'm not going to get into that.
They've come a long way with plastic surgery.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying anything. It's just that.
More like
who
Bondo.
are you? I'm Cher. Oh, okay. I got you. I remember you. I got you, babe. All right. Except she looks nothing like that. Fire and Fury. They were all reading excerpts from Fire and Fury. And, of course, Hillary Clinton, not to be outdone, she did her bit. But here's the big news the day after. They're saying that the ratings for the Grammys could be the lowest in history, down between 20 and 20+%. And all the number crunchers are, doing what they're doing. Down by more than 20% from last year's show, according to the Hollywood Reporter. I'm sure you all read that, don't you? Oh, yeah, of course. The early number ratings could indicate an all-time low for the Grammys. And that's even with Keisha did that hashtag Me Too thing. I don't know. I couldn't name half the people on the stage with her, but it was like, what is this? I didn't get it. And no, I'm not being a sexist. I just didn't get it. She was into it, though. The 3.5-hour award ceremony was given a 12.7 rating among households. That's the biggest ratings drop for the Grammys since 2013. The show aired, I'll take your calls. Everybody had something to say about Trump, about where we are. We had, that whole Dreamer segment. That was, pretty good. You really had to use your imagination for that. Some of the night's more political moments. Like I said, a Clinton cameo where she read from the book Fire and Fury. Kendrick Lamar taking the stage backed by a waving American flag. He had a bunch of dancers around him dressed in military-like clothing. Then he performed his rap song, Triple X, which contains a lot of political lyrics, but you had to be there. Camila Cabello had one of the more politically charged moments when she took the stage to make a plea in favor of Dreamers, saying that her parents brought her to this country with nothing in their pocket but hopes. Of course, referencing the debate happening in D.C. over DACA. Logic and U2 used their time on stage to slam Trump's alleged S-hole countries comment. And U2 was out like using the Statue of Liberty as a backdrop. They told the crowd, lastly, for those who fight for equality in a world that is not equal, not just, and not ready for the change we are here to bring, I say unto you, not to you, but unto you. Bring us your tired, your poor, your immigrants who seek refuge, for together we can build only a better blah, 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 blah. I mean, it got bad. It was just, so if you want to give me your comment on the Grammys, then so be it. 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. At some point, all these far left-leaning, one was good. Somebody was whispering in my ear, did you like anything? Yeah, there was, they did that tribute for all the country music fans that were killed in Las Vegas. Eric Church and some others did an acoustic version of Clapton's song "See You in Heaven." That was pretty good. That wasn't bad. It seemed one of the few things that was credible. I know everybody was talking about, well, what about Keisha, Rick? Yeah, she did a little #MeToo tribute with a bunch of other female singers on stage. I'm sorry. It just, I'm not trying to be a sexist or mean-spirited or ugly. It just was too much. At some point, you got to say, look, this is a problem, but it doesn't apply to everybody. And she was, well, it doesn't matter. We'll take your calls. 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. It's, yeah, exactly. Some people were saying, well, really, Keisha really sang her heart out. I didn't, forgive me, but I didn't hear her hit one note. I mean, there was just a lot of growling and yelling and so on and so forth. She performed her song Praying to thank her supporters. It was, I don't know. It was too much for me. It really, see, here's part of the problem. When I watch musicians, most of you know I was raised by my grandparents, and I was, but there was a short period of time, when, I was raised by my mom. My mom was a professional musician, played with Dean Martin for quite a few years, toured in Europe and all that kind of thing. So, if somebody doesn't hit a tone, I hear it a mile away, because as a little teeny kid, I can remember they would practice at our house. And it would be over and over and over and over again until they got it just right. Well, simply by osmosis, you're going to pull some of that in. So if somebody is not singing on key, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me, and I turn it off. But, Keisha, I'm sure her heart was in the right place. But all the we hate Trump and every man is a sex offender. Just that whole thing. It's like, man, people love music. They don't want to hear your politics. If you don't believe me, ask the Dixie Chicks. It's obvious. All right. If you watched it, let me know what you thought. I think they were their own worst enemy. Lowest ratings possibly ever, down more than 20% from last year. 1-800-288. Did you find me a rap song? You got a little rap song ready for me? Okay. Okay. All right. 1-800-288-WBAP. 1-800-288-9227. The Grammys. Aren't you just levitating off your seat waiting for next year? All right, 2:32 the time. Glad you're along. All right. Tomorrow at 8 p.m., President Trump gives his first State of the Union. President Trump has spent his first year in office breaking just about every rule of communication for a president, conducting policymaking and diplomacy by Twitter, some are saying, looking at the careful, subdued tones of most presidents and throwing that out the window. Trump is pretty much a no-holds-barred type of guy. And if he doesn't like you, if he doesn't like what you say, it's a full-blown attack on his adversaries and, well, some of his allies at the same time. But tomorrow, Trump will embrace the most traditional of presidential venues, the State of the Union. He'll appear before a joint session of Congress for his first State of the Union address. Now, this is something unlike the Grammys I am looking for. He's going to deliver what his aides are describing as an optimistic speech that will seek, to hit those folks beyond the people who voted for him. People that voted for him, they're going to stick with him. If he sticks to script, he's expected to call on Congress to spend at least $1 trillion to rebuild bridges, freeways, sewers, airports, infrastructure. And he's going to use the speech to lobby millions of viewers on behalf of his plan to make a few of these conservative changes to the nation's immigration system. Of course, no matter what he does, Democrats in D.C. are going to be against it. You already know that. If his first year has proved anything, it's probably there are no guarantees when he faces a television camera. You know that as well as I do. Anything can happen, and usually does. Cabinet meetings have, gone off the rails into a presidential rant or two. Memorial speeches have turned into, some self-congratulatory moments. Those short photo ops have become long news conferences. So you never know with Trump. It's however it hits him at the time. He sounds like a regular president, according to Michael Waldman. He was director of speechwriting for President Bill Clinton 4 or 5 years, I think. He wrote 4 State of the Union speeches off the teleprompter. I listened to this. He said, off the teleprompter, Trump sounds like a fill-in radio talk show host. Well, that's because a lot of fill-ins read, and that's the first thing I tell them. Don't script anything. Just talk. When Trump delivered his first address to the joint session of Congress, that was last February, not technically a State of the Union speech, but pretty close for him, I think. He offered a optimistic vision of America, speaking from a prepared text. He did pretty good. But the former speechwriters said traditional State of the Union speeches don't fit with this president very well. And I think that's probably right. They tend to be long lists of policy proposals, sort of like a shopping list, taped together over months in a process that involves agency employees, federal government issues. That's not going to work with Trump. I don't think you're going to hear that. During his first year, he showed only a little interest in the nuts and bolts of policy making. And I think that's probably because of his background. He's kind of a visionary. This is what I envision. I don't know what it's going to take to make it happen, but that's why I hire good people, make it happen. Jonathan Horn, he was a speechwriter for President Bush. He said Trump's Twitter habit could undermine the political benefits of the speech. I disagree with that. because I think most of the time these speeches are something that presidents can hide behind. You know, when a guy just starts tweeting the first thing that comes to his mind, you may not like that style, but it's much more credible. Other presidents tried to maximize the political benefit of that State of the Union audience. 48 million people. Think about that. 48 million people listen to Barack Obama. I mean, that's crazy. That's it's a huge audience, and obviously they're going to try to get as much bang for their buck, politically speaking, as they can. So, do I think it's going to be a train wreck? No. Some people are saying it will be. I don't think so. I think if Trump just goes out there, and I know I realize this on again, off again thing with the Democrats about the wall, that'll probably come up at some point, but I really think if he goes out there and just becomes himself, even though it's historically a very momentous moment for any president, his first State of the Union, well, any State of the Union, I really think if he just goes out and pretends like he's on the campaign trail again and talks to the American people, just talk to them. Don't give me a bunch of legal eagle mumbo jumbo. I mean, playing for the audience that you're with in Congress. Don't get taken off to one side or the other by the applause. That's always something that presidents, it's almost like they're doing a stage show, and I don't care for that. He's likely to call for more efforts to combat the opioid epidemic, but, he hasn't said a whole lot about that. He can point to, policy shifts like his decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, the Iran nuke agreement, blasting that thing. I look for him to do that. I think for those of you that, were hopeful that he was going to be the guy to turn things around, the mainstream media simply hasn't reported 10% of what he's been able to accomplish in D.C. So I think he's realizing that. I think hopefully his aides are realizing that, and they use it to basically list what this president has done in the last year. The question remains, what will he promise? In other words, what will be next? Immigration? I mean, he campaigned on that. People expect it. The thing with Chuck Schumer, first we have a wall, then we don't. We got 1.8 dreamers we're going to give citizenship to, which I'm totally against. I can't believe he even went there. Now they're talking 3 million. At the end of the day, it's really about you, because this is your president. He is not one of the good old boys in D.C. I wouldn't imagine a bunch of folks are calling him, hey, you want to have a drink after work? I can't see that happening. What do you want to see from this president in the State of the Union? What do you want him to address? What do you want him to make clear? I hope he actually points out the fact that he's had so many stumbling blocks by the Democrats and even members of some of his own party. I hope that comes up. I think the conventional wisdom goes out the window, primarily because of Trump, with the State of the Union. But what do you want to see? Because that's all that counts. What do you want to hear this president do? I'd like him to come up and say, here's the deal. This is what I wanted to do. Members of my own party, XYZ. I mean, call them out. Why not? What have you got to lose? Call out the Democrats. Call out, what was it? Pelosi said, I think he's trying to make America white again. I don't even know what that means. So at the end of the day, I hope he takes the podium and he calls everybody out. One of those scorched earth, take no prisoners type speeches. And whether you fall into that category that loves that about Trump or hates that about Trump, I think that's him. And I think that's what people want to see. All right, we'll take your calls. 1-800 288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. Your voice, your opinion, your attitude. What do you want to see tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central Time when Donald Trump takes to the podium for the first time after the first year in office to give his State of the Union? What do you need to hear from your president? We'll do that next. 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. I'm Rick Roberts. This is the Court of Public Opinion on News Talk 820 WBAP. .245 the time. Welcome to Court of Public Opinion. Your voice, your opinion, your attitude on the issue of the day. And by the way, you can watch President Trump's first State of the Union speech right here on News Talk 820 WBAP beginning at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Let's go to Brian in Arlington. Brian, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Brian?
All right. Thank you for having me. You had asked what I thought Trump should address during the State of the Union, and the thing that really concerns me, and I haven't really heard mention, is what we're doing with the education system, because from elementary school all the way up to college, we all know that they're really just indoctrination and breeding grounds for liberal ideology. And I'm not sure what the government can do along that line to start leveling the playing field, but if whether it be financial holding money back from colleges or universities for not allowing free speech on both sides of the aisle or what. But if we don't stem that somehow, I mean, we've got nothing but, it's literally just producing liberal ideology nonstop out of the education system. I'd like to hear what we plan on doing about that, if anything, or what the plan is to start addressing that.
Well, I agree with you. Unfortunately, you know why it's in the current state it is because the government wants it that way. The government doesn't want critical thinkers or highly educated people. They're harder to control. That's why we started dumbing down kids with outcome-based education. All these goofy, plans to better teach kids, and Common Core, that was one of them. You're really asking the government, okay, we know what you're up to. We know what you're doing. The more people that are dependent on government, the more powerful the government becomes. And the dumber our kids are at graduation, the more likely they are to buy into most liberal beliefs if they make it to college. If they don't make it to college, we certainly want them to know the extensive menu of government programs they can rely on. That's, for any president to take that on, you're looking at a firefight there with not only the Democrats, but his own party as well. But it needs to be done if this country's going to survive.
I agree. And if this president isn't the one to do it, I'm not sure whether we'll ever have another one that will. And that's the concern.
No, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. If this president does put something, we dodged a bullet with Common Core. Before that, it was outcome-based education. And it was all designed to get the parents out of it. I've told this story many, many times. Statistically, girls do not as well as boys in science and math. So, I concentrated on sitting down at the kitchen table to help my young daughter at that time in elementary school on those subjects. And we one time got to a pizza question. If Timmy had 2 pieces of pizza and Johnny had... Anyway, long story short, she was almost in tears. It was like, Daddy, I can't figure this out. And I said, okay, Pumpkin, don't worry about it. Let me finish what I'm doing. I'll help you, thinking it'd take 5 minutes. I sat down at that table. We sat there for an hour. And finally, I said, okay, go on off to bed. I'll take a look at this. And I sat there for another 2 hours trying to figure it out. Finally, I couldn't. I called the school the next day, and I get this. Oh, Mr. Roberts, there is no right answer. There is no wrong answer. We just want the child to experience happiness in the journey.
Did they give him a participation award along with that?
I was the last person on planet Earth you wanted to tell that to. So we got that taken care of. But that's because of government. These teachers aren't setting their own curriculum. They're taking this and they're doing it for the obvious reason, the money. We've got to have somebody in government say, okay, If we don't grow any larger than we are, that's fine, but we've got to educate kids so we don't end up raising them later on through government programs, because that just means you and I are raising somebody else's kid with your taxes.
If we're not going to attack, or go after the current, university systems down to the regular school systems, we need to at least do everything we can to open up the opportunity for the voucher system and other alternatives.
Amen. Amen, Brian.
Because that is our really only hope. If they're not going to change, it's all for competition.
I agree. So you want to hear the president address the educational needs in this country in his State of the Union tomorrow?
I think that would impress a lot of people and hopefully lead to something good.
Brian, I appreciate it very, very much. Let's go to Zach in McKinney. Zach, I appreciate the patience. How you doing?
No problem. I'm doing well, Rick. Thank you. I think Trump should hammer home the comments that Nancy Pelosi and the other far left people said about the crumbs that people are receiving from employers.
Yeah.
That's offensive to a lot of people. And the other day I was listening to the co-founder of Home Depot mention, it was actually yesterday, I forgot what Marcus, whatever his name is, but said, tell that to some struggling clerk that's at Home Depot or wherever else they're receiving these bonuses of $1,000 and tell them that that's nothing. That can be the difference in a mortgage, a car that's broke down, whatever the case may be. It may not be that whole lot to a lot of people in America, but $1,000 is a lot. And to tell someone that's crumbs, that's offensive. And I hope Trump would just, make these people feel bad on national TV for making comments like that, because they deserve it.
Oh, they do. Well, Nancy Pelosi especially. I mean, this woman, she's got a vineyard in California. She's a multimillionaire. And for her to say, well, these are just crumbs. Really? $1,000 is not. It's not if you're working two jobs trying to put food on the table. An automatic increase in minimum wage, voluntary, from these companies that are getting a tax break. I don't know what standard she is. I would like to see her pie chart as to what she feels crumbs are.
And Rick, I would say that it just goes to show, I would want Trump to say that it just goes to show how out of touch her, Chuck Schumer, or anyone else is. They're out of touch of reality.
So basically you're saying tomorrow night you want to hear him call people out.
Absolutely.
I do too.
And release that memo while you're at it. Just read off the list.
Read the memo. Oh, what a great idea. What a great idea.
I mean, just go after them and don't hold back. Just go after. Obviously, talk about all the accomplishments that have come about, and then just go after these lousy, evil, ridiculous people.
Yeah. I agree with you, man. That's wouldn't that be great? And by the way, let me whip this out real quick and read the memo. That would be fantastic. Well. After his first year, President Donald Trump will give his first State of the Union tomorrow. And, of course, we'll have it here at 8 o'clock. What are you wanting this president to do? Man, I just hope he comes, figuratively speaking, with both barrels blazing. I truly, truly do. That's who he is. That's how he's gotten what he's gotten done. That's what I want to see. Don't play any politics. Call everybody out, even if they're Republicans. We'll find out what you want to hear from your president in his first State of the Union. That's next on News Talk 820 WBAP.
This is the news and talk of Texas. Now it's the Rick Roberts Show on 820 AM, 99.5 FM, HD2, News Talk 820 WBAP.
Well, I know there's got to be a few 100 million more like me, just trying to keep it free.
Rick Roberts starts right now.
I hope it's going to be good. We worked on it hard, cover a lot of territory, including our great success with the markets and with the tax cut. And it's a big speech, an important speech. We cover immigration, and for many years, they've been talking immigration. They never got anything done. We're going to get something done.
Well, that is the hope that something gets done. President Trump, after his first year in office, will give his first State of the Union speech tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Now, I'll be honest. I don't really care what the congressional audience says or what they clap to or what they stand up for. I don't care. Makes no difference. They've already proven to me they're kicking the can down the road on just about everything. I do care what you think. Because at the end of the day, in the final analysis, that's what counts. What do you want? What do you need to hear this president say as we're heading toward the midterms at a pretty quick rate? What do you need? What do you want to hear your president say in his first State of the Union address? Let's go to Linda in Waco, Texas. Linda, thank you for waiting. I appreciate it. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Rick. Thank you for letting me talk to you.
You bet.
Now, I've got about 3 points I'd like to kind of throw out there at you. The first point is that I want to see President Trump. I hope he fires up and really hits America and tells people to please, please keep him in office because he is a wonderful president and he has a wonderful heart and he loves America. He wants us to be great again. And I hope he can instill all the people, just like in World War II, when we had all the people that stepped up, the women and whoever, to fight for America. This is what he needs to instill in them tomorrow night. He needs to let them know that if you are a true American and you do believe in this country, that you need to stand up for America. And I am so tired as a business owner that's a 3-generation business, and I'm 70 years old, and I've had raised 4 children, and I am totally dedicated to my family, and I am so tired. I've never taken a government dollar, and I want to see our tax dollars go for our children, and it will not be there in the future.
No, it won't be.
That's my point.
If we don't do something relatively soon, you know what I want. And I know he was a Democrat, but that old JFK saying, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." Man, how do we get that back? I know it was a Democrat slogan at the time, but that's what we need. That's what we need. We don't need more government programs. We need to actually cut some and help those that are truly deserving that need a hand up. We don't need, 1 and 2 generations living off the public dole. And we've got to stop all this nonsense about throwing cops under the bus every time a cloud comes up in the sky. I hope he addresses each and every one of those things. As a matter of fact, take as long as you want, just like Ferguson. That poor cop had his life ruined, and it was done with people from the White House before the evidence was even in. I mean, there's so many things this president needs to talk about during the State of the Union. And you're right, yes. Linda.
Yes. I have listened to your show, and I listened to Fox News. Even though sometimes I don't agree with everybody. But this country needs to rise up. This country needs to cut the liberals off at the knees. And we need to go back to working. If you're going to come here, you need to be legal. If you're going to put your children in this school, you need to speak English. We need to go back to our roots, not other people's roots. And that's what I'm so unhappy about. And I'm 70 years old, and my grandkids are coming up and great grandkids, and I am so sad at what they're going to have to deal with in the future. And it's people like you and people like Fox News that got to keep fighting and fighting and fighting. And I don't know if we're going to pull it out. Only God knows that, is all I can say.
Linda, keep that message. Keep that message with whomever you talk to. It's it's not a matter of left. Truly, it's not a matter of left versus right, Democrat versus Republican. Short versus tall, black versus white. It's none of that. It's common sense. I mean, it's truly common. I'm so he's a racist president. Why? How's he a racist president? Well, he said something one time. Okay, people say a lot of things. I can't think of anything that he said that's racist right off the bat. But, people are known by their actions. not necessarily by their words. Words are fine, and we need those. But we need somebody that will take action. And nobody in D.C. is taking any action except this politics of personal destruction, one side trying to obliterate the other. That doesn't help you and me at all. Kat in Saginaw. Kat, thank you for waiting. How you doing, Kat?
I'm doing great. And you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking.
Well, I like you more revved up, and I hope this is going to do it. Okay. But I'm telling you, what I want him to say tomorrow night is that I want him to say that list that you constantly talk about on your program of his accomplishments. I want him to tell people that, because so many people don't know because they do listen to CNN or the Democrats. And here he is before Christmas quietly working on a tax cut that has benefited so many people. And believe me, if $1,000 came to a teacher like I am, believe me, I would just absolutely love it. So, that is not crumbs. So what I'm trying to say is that I want him to do that. I want him to tell it, because while, again, he was doing that tax cut, the only thing that you were hearing was him having collusion with Russia. That's what the Dems were talking about.
Well, of course, and there's
not
no
a tax cut,
and there's no evidence of any of that. As a matter of fact, I know more about the collusion between the Clinton Foundation and the Russians than I do about the Russians and anybody else.
Exactly. He needs to, and I know he probably doesn't have a problem talking well about himself, and that's okay with me, because he needs to tout it. And I want him to do it and hammer it home. And I want people revved up, and I don't care if someone's not standing up in that audience. People are going to be standing up at home hearing about it, because, again, there are so many people that would enjoy having that $1,000 come their way, or just a tax cut, even though, my benefit's going to be down the road. I'm excited about that. So it's got to be told. It's got to be said. So I want him revved up. I want all of America revved up. I want everybody to listen to it tomorrow night.
Kat, I appreciate the call. Well, in the State of the Union, you can be sure Trump is going to make the case that America is back or close to getting back, and that our stumbling blocks, for the most part, our stumbling blocks aren't here where we live. It's not how blacks and whites get along. We get along fine until you start injecting politics and radical groups on both sides of the aisle. He needs to call people out. That's what I'm going to be. Well, Rick, what are you going to be doing? Well, I'll take copious notes in preparation for the show the next day. But at the same time, I want to hear him call people out. This politically correct, well, I don't want to hurt anybody's self-esteem. I don't want to upset anybody. I may have to see him, at the restaurant across the street from the Capitol. Forget all that. He's got nothing to lose except the country. Let's go to Joel in McKinney. Joel, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Joel?
Hey, how's it going, Rick?
Good.
Hey, I just wanted to tell you that there was a time where I looked up. Marie Antoinette said, "Let them eat cake," and that was the reason why in the Revolution the poor people, the revolutionaries, turned on the royal family in France during Napoleon's time. But the definition of cake, I always thought it was birthday cake or wedding cake. The definition is actually crumbs, because what they would do is they would bake bread, and the crumbs that fell off the bread after it baked, the bakers would save the crumbs and give them to the poor people. So when she said, "Let them eat cake," she said, forget them, let them eat crumbs. And that's what Nancy Pelosi is saying to the American people. So I hope they don't turn on Nancy Pelosi and do the same thing that they did to Marie Antoinette.
Well, I don't think there's any fear of that.
But you know what they did, right?
No, yeah, they cut her head off.
Yeah, cut her head off. So
yeah,
but I was just saying, I thought that was an interesting parallel.
Well, as I looked at Nancy Pelosi, as far as I'm concerned, is certifiably insane. I don't know. I'm not trying to be ugly, but I don't know if she has dementia, the Alzheimer's, oncoming Alzheimer's. but she looks like a deer in the headlights every time she speaks. And when she makes statements like, well, this president's just, well, he's trying to make America white again. What does that even mean? Let them eat cake. It's in today's world, that's a saying that shows insensitivity to or incomprehension of the realities of life for poor people. It's just crumbs they're getting. They're not getting much. I'm sorry. If you are an uber liberal, as one comedian once put it, and you think the only thing wrong with this country is there's not enough bicycle paths, then I'm sorry, you're a part of the problem. You're not a part of the solution. All right, I'm a little late. Let me step aside. I want to check your afternoon drive. Make sure you don't get stuck in a hot spot. And then we'll continue what you want to hear from your president in his first State of the Union. Big deal. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, right here on News Talk 820 WBAP. All right, 3:20 the time. Good afternoon. I'm Rick Roberts. This is the Court of Public Opinion. Your voice, your opinion, your attitude on the issues of the day, and the issue tomorrow at 8 o'clock. You'll hear on News Talk 820 WBAP, the first State of the Union by Donald Trump as president after his first year in office. Well, I really don't care what the political pundits say. I mean, I truly don't. It's impossible for me to care any less about what they think. And everybody that you're seeing, all the news gathering stations, pushing their agenda, pushing their narrative, I don't care. I really don't. But what I do care about are the people that vote. You. I care about whether you're left or right. What do you need? What do you want to hear this president say in his first address to Congress? Dave in Eastland. Dave, thanks for waiting. I appreciate it. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing fine, Rick. How are you, sir?
Good.
This is kind of selfish because it affects me, but I'd like to see him address the problems of the VA.
That makes sense, yeah?
Well, the problem is we wait for months and months to see doctors. And sometimes it's critical care that we need immediately, not 6 or 8 months down the road. And some of the problems that we face, they just get exacerbated by over time. I want to see him address the problems. I want to see some changes at the VA.
Are you having, if I don't want to get too personal, are you having problems with the VA getting treatment?
I don't know of anybody at the VA who hasn't had problems. I waited 8 months to see a heart doctor.
Wow.
To have an EKG, to have a carotid artery Doppler done. I waited 8 months. And those kinds of things may be critical,
No, as a matter of fact, and I've got it in my sound archive right here. I used to do an afternoon show in addition to this, and it would hit Las Vegas and Reno and other places. And I had a regular caller named Billy, and he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. The VA couldn't get him in. We actually called the VA live on the air and shamed them into seeing him. And then he couldn't get in for his follow-up. So he gave me a call on the air one day, and I could tell there was something different about his voice. You know how when you talk to somebody without looking at them, you become very attuned to inflection and mood and things like that because you're just listening. And I could tell something was wrong, and I just point-blank asked him, what's up? And he said, I can't take this anymore. I've been waiting for years, and now I've waited so long, it's progressed, the cancer, I'm not going to have any quality of life left. And he lived in a pretty modest place there at Lake Tahoe, and he ended up shooting himself in his pickup truck while he was listening to me on the radio. So I kept that tape for quite a while. And every time one of these politicians comes on, oh, it's all about the vets, it's all about the vets, I would vet their voting record on VA hospitals and other things, and I'd call them out. I'd say, I want you to listen to something, and you tell me, in your position as a politician, what you would have done differently. And it's pretty strong. It's hard to listen to. But, that I just don't have a lot of faith in politicians on either side of the aisle, quite honestly.
Well, I'm an old Vietnam veteran. Now, I live out here in the wilds of West Texas, so to speak. And anytime I go to any VA facility, it's over 100 miles.
Yeah.
For me to go to Dallas, Brownwood, to Temple, to Big Springs, any of those places out here are over 100 miles. I'm 66 years old. That's a long drive for me.
Well, Dave, my belief has always been, when people start talking to me about, well, we need to help more refugees, we need to do this, we need to do that. We send billions of dollars overseas to countries that absolutely despise us. We're probably one of the most benevolent countries in the world, but we've got vets living, in sleeping bags under overpasses, standing in line at soup kitchens, not getting the medical and mental help they need. When we don't have that anymore, then people can talk to me about bringing more people in.
Well, I know that there are good, honest, hardworking people that work at the VA. I don't mean to disparage all of them. I have met some.
No, it's a system. It's not the people. It's the system. The way it's set up.
Absolutely, the system is broken. I mean, when a vet goes into the hospital or something, if you walk into the door, I don't care if you're the only person in there. I have been told it takes over an hour for the doctors just to be able to access any knowledge about you before they can see you.
Exactly. The way it should work, Dave, in my opinion, my humble opinion, people like you and others have signed a contract with their government, the government of their country. You guys don't want to go out and die with boots on the ground, but you will if you have to. That's the contract you signed. If you're lucky enough to make it back, then the very least the government should do is hold up their end of the contract, and they have not. It seems to me that, Dave, you should be able to go to any doctor you want to go to, across the street if there's one there, and the government reimburses them.
Well, I am on what's called the Veterans Choice Program, which is a lifesaver for me, which does exactly what you're saying. If there's some doctor locally here that's in the Veterans Choice Program, I can make an appointment and go see them. But that doesn't mean that they have an appointment available. It doesn't mean that I get in to see them today or tomorrow or next week or a month. It means that they can see me whenever they can, just like anybody else, of course. But at least that part of it does help the veterans who are miles and miles and hours away from a VA facility. So there are some good things that the VA is doing. The problem is when you wait months for critical care, for carotid arteries, for Dopplers, for heart specialists, for brain, for cancer. When you wait on those things, sometimes it's just too late.
It is, Dave. You're right. Dave is here to say he'd like to see, in the State of the Union, the first State of the Union by Donald Trump as president, touch on the Veterans Administration, touch on the VA hospitals. It's not the people, generally. It's the system. It's the system. The system doesn't work for everyone. It should. All right, 3:27 the time. Eric Bushman standing by in the WBAP newsroom, the very latest breaking news. We'll check your afternoon drive. Then back with your calls. The president gives his first State of the Union tomorrow. What do you want to hear him say? Personally, I want him to call out everybody. I'm Rick Roberts, News Talk 820 WBAP. 3:34 the time. Good afternoon. I'm Rick Roberts. This is the Court of Public Opinion. Of course, the president's first State of the Union will be tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Do you know what this country is up against in trying to survive? It's not just illegal immigration. It's education. It's the fact that college students don't even know what's going on. They can't even tell you what they had for breakfast. As a matter of fact, I got this. There it is right there. Rick, I don't have time to find the attachment, but I saw a video of someone interviewing New York University students about the State of the Union. They thought it already happened, and nobody was afraid to give an opinion, preemptively, I guess. Well, I know what you're talking about. I've got it for you right here. These are New York University students being interviewed. I believe it's Campus Reform that is doing this. And they are asking these college students. These aren't high school dropouts, sitting around the convenience store, splitting a 40. These are New York University college students. And the guy walks up and asks them what they thought of the State of the Union speech, even though the State of the Union is not for another 24 hours. And at the time he did this, it was at least a week away. Now, what the leaders of tomorrow, the people you're trying to hire for your business, the people that, believe it or not, will be making decisions on behalf of a lot of us as they enter the workforce, the liberals, how informed, how educated are they? Listen, and then I'll take your calls.
I'm Kevin Phillips with Campus Reform. Today we're at NYU getting students' opinions on President Trump's State of the Union address. Except that speech won't happen for another 7 days. But what will they say when we ask them what they thought of it? Let's find out. Well, we've been getting people's reactions today to the State of the Union last night. Some people were saying that it was the most racist State of the Union that's ever happened. What was your reaction to everything that was said?
I didn't watch it because I couldn't bring myself to watch it.
Quite racist at the very least, if not up there with most racist.
Yeah. Wow. It's already quickly climbing the scale. Some of the people said today that they thought his immigration stance and that he outlined last night was especially hateful.
Very offensive.
What do you think of it?
It's something that I wouldn't have expected to happen in, our lifetime.
It's offensive. It is crazy, but I'm not shocked by it, by what he's done in the past, so.
Pretty ugly. I believe what I'm hearing about his rough nature and the hate that he probably said.
He told the Democrats the wall got 10 feet higher because they didn't stand up and give him applause at one point. What do you think of all that?
It's the behavior of someone who refuses to accept accountability for their failures.
The way he acts, you shouldn't be acting like that if you're the leader of the country, regardless of what party you're in. So that frustrates me a lot.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me that was his State of the Union address.
Hopefully everything that he's outlined can be overturned by the public opinion.
Was there one thing in particular that you saw people most upset about?
Probably with immigration going on with the whole DACA thing and him trying to build the wall.
One of the craziest moments when he started a build the wall chant with all the Republicans that were there.
Okay.
People on social media were accusing him of basically using the State of the Union as a campaign event.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous.
I think it's absolutely crazy.
The fact that he started a chant, he's big on those.
What's your reaction?
I think it reveals that he has the temperament of a 3-year-old.
People, a lot of times, they're trying to say, don't listen to what he's saying, and they just want to shut it down just because it's Trump saying it. Do you think they have any ground there?
I don't think so. I think there are enough progressive and intellectual people that really analyze what he's saying.
Do you think he's going to follow through with the things that he promised last night?
I don't know. We'll see. He said he was going to become president. He became president.
Yeah, I love the part where one of the NYU students, hopefully it'll be overturned by the public because they're more intellectual. The State of the Union, kids, hasn't even happened yet. Oh, really? I was studying. It's the liberal mindset. Those people believe they were absolutely 100% spot on. Because facts don't matter to liberals. It just doesn't matter what the conservatives say. Because they're all racist and misogynist and sexist. And do you see what we're up against in this country? Yeah, going back to the previous caller, I hope he points out education. It's very difficult to be a liberal if you're extremely educated. Let's go to Mark in Fort Worth. Mark, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Mark?
Hey, great, Rick. Thanks for taking my call. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you.
My wife and I listen to you all the time and tell everybody about your show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You mentioned common sense earlier, and I heard Mark Stein on the TV the other day say that to have common sense, we have to have common understandings of what things mean. And so in regards to the rule of law, you know, some of us, myself included, a libertarian, believe in enforcing the rule of law. But when I talk to my liberal friends, and if you mentioned we're not enforcing the immigration laws, or a president wants to weaponize the IRS and the DOJ and the FBI to go after his enemies, they don't want to talk about the rule of law. They want to talk about American values.
Right.
All that, man.
True.
And I would have President Trump get up there and say, and address the rule of law of this country, and I would read that FISA 4-page memo and pin that tail on the donkey. And make it very clear who wants to support the rule of law and who doesn't. And just let's clear that up before we can go any.
I think
law or not.
I think you're right. We're asking people what they want to see tomorrow night in the State of the Union. Walking up there. Hey, you guys want to enforce the rule of law? Yes or no? If you don't, I'll go ahead and leave. I'll leave tonight. I'll pack up. It's not going to break my heart. If this is no longer a nation ruled by law, but we're another third world banana republic, I'm gone.
Yeah, and if we don't want to enforce the immigration laws and we don't have borders, then quit sending me a tax bill.
Exactly. We can be known as Venezuela North.
So let's just establish the facts.
Yeah, I want to see him call people out by name.
Yeah, so do I. I'd like for him to read that memo, but I know that's not going to happen.
Well, at the end of the day, it's got to go through a lot of channels, but it ultimately goes to his desk, and then he can decide whether to release it to the public or not. They say maybe mid-March, but that FISA memo, man, by everybody that nobody's leaking it, which it's kind of strange, but they're saying the American people are absolutely going to be shocked when they get this. Well, fine, do it.
My understanding is if the president releases it, or if he gets up there at the State of the Union and reads it, then it is no longer classified, and so it's well within his right to get up to the State of the Union and read that memo and say, "Here's what's going on in this country." And so let's make some decision here. Is it the rule of law or is it American values?
Yeah, if he would just get up there and say, you know what, I put up with all your stuff, false and correct. I'm not the boogeyman. I'm trying to make this country great again. We're either going to follow the rule of law or we're going to have open borders and be Venezuela. And by the way, here's a little tidbit, and just read verbatim that memo and say, call out by name the people that are involved and say, if you don't want to be involved, get out of D.C.
Thank you very much for taking my call, Rick.
I appreciate it. Thank you and your wife for your listenership. I appreciate it very much. Let's go to, I tell you what, let me step aside very quickly. I need to check your afternoon drive. Then we'll come back. I think, as I think about this thing could be huge. It's not going to be huge if he goes to the podium and tries to play politics. Well, this is presidential, and historically presidents have said this, and I'll stick to my script. And no, just walk up there, tear those 3x5 card, tell them to turn the teleprompter off, and just freewheel through it. That's the way he did when he campaigned. That's what he's done for the first year. And my gosh, most people are better off in this last year than they have been in 8 years. Got more people working. Well, I'm not going to go through the list. I want him to. 3:44 the time. 1-800-288-WBAP. 1-800-288-9227. Your calls straight ahead. All right, 3:49 the time. Based on that last call, I did an update as of about 12 minutes ago. The House Intelligence Committee may vote later this afternoon or tomorrow to publicly release the memo alleging abuses of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA. but they haven't yet told its members whether they're going to hold the vote. The committee has posted a business meeting for 5 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 o'clock our time. Has not yet said if it plans to vote today to release the memo that was spearheaded by Chairman Nunez. A vote was expected as early as this week, but it may be before the State of the Union. And as far as Trump is concerned, the White House is saying, and this was about an hour ago, the White House saying President Trump has not decided whether he will authorize the release of a classified House Intelligence Committee memo, but says he favors transparency. The House may vote later today to release that memo, and it basically says there was misconduct in the FBI when it came to Mueller. Sarah Huckabee Sanders said that no one at the White House has seen the memo, so the president was not prepared to make a decision. Hey, vote on it, release it, do it tomorrow as a little added surprise for the State of the Union. What are you looking for your president to say in his first State of the Union? Man, I hope he gets that memo with him. I truly do. Rick in Wiley. Rick, thanks for waiting. I appreciate it. How you doing, Rick?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Kind of in keeping up with your comment a minute ago about Trump kind of going off of the, script, I would just really like to see the meltdown of the liberals if he were to announce that he's bringing ICE agents to the State of the Union to look for undocumented foreign aid. And, anyone who is not a U.S. citizen will be detained and deported if they are in the country illegally. And then go on with that to say that we live by the rule of law and that if you are supporting these illegal aliens, then you will also be, I believe it's a violation of the law to give them support and harbor them. And if you're a politician doing that, then politicians from now on are going to have to live by the laws that they pass for us to follow. I'd just love to see the media get a hold of that.
Well, you know what the media would do? We're tearing families apart and we're doing this and we're doing that. But, I know immigration is a hot button issue. It was the primary issue during his campaign. And, of course, everybody's talking about the DACA and Dreamers and all of that. But it is the State of the Union. I'd like to see him, come, as I said before, figuratively speaking, with both barrels blazing, immigration, education, the VA. There's tons of things he needs to get to. Draining the swamp is not an afternoon job. It's going to take a while. Let me
kind of say something about me. I've worked with people that are, are not here legally. I know some of them and know them well enough to call them friends. And I don't harbor any ill will towards any of them, but it's a problem that needs to be solved.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, if you're going to be a nation ruled by law, it needs to be solved. If you want to become Venezuela or Ecuador or some Central American country, then, be my guest. But that's not what this country was set up to do. Rick, very, very good call. Appreciate it. Angelo in Arlington. Angelo, thank you for waiting. How you doing, Angelo?
I'm doing very well, and I hope you are too. You sound very good today.
Thank you.
It's a great subject, too. Here's my take. Here's what I'd like to see the president do, because I've been tweeting Nancy Pelosi. I've been tweeting the president, Schumer, and all them. Here's what I'd like to see him do. Have a microphone there, and have the microphone. Take the microphone to Nancy Pelosi. Please stand up, Nancy. All right. You accuse me of wanting to make America white again. Here's my proposal. We have many homeless blacks, whites, Mexican, Chinese, whatever nationality you want to classify them as. We have many veterans who fought for our freedoms that are different races. What are we going to do about them before we address the illegal immigrants? I'll wait for your answer and just put her right on the spot right there.
Angelo, that in a perfect world, you're right. He would walk up to the podium. He'd have a couple people with wireless mics. We used to do this in the town halls we did. And, call people out. Call them out. Would somebody take Nancy? Okay, good. Nancy, you made this statement. You're saying I'm trying to make the country white again. Could you please enlighten all of us as to what you meant specifically by that? And then have the guy hold the mic up to it. Just like The Price is Right. Yeah? Stick the mic up. Do you want door number 1, door number 2, or how about you just get your butt out of the country? How about that? Will that work? All right. 3:55 the time. We're going to step aside Eric Bushman with the very latest breaking news, and we'll check your afternoon drive. Then when we come back, more of your calls. I mean, all they have to do is listen to this show. The aides in D.C., and I know they listen to tons of talk radio. Listen to the show. This is what the voters want. Forget the teleprompter, forget the script, tell the speechwriters to go get a sandwich, and just lay it out there. Lay it out there. Just be yourself. Trump is not, he's not like any president we've had before. Thank goodness. Now, there have been a few good ones, been a lot of bad ones. Just let Trump be Trump. How about that?
This is the news and talk of Texas. Now, it's the Rick Roberts Show on 820 AM, 99.5 FM, HD2, News Talk 820, WBAP.
Well, I know there's got to be a few 100 million more like me, just trying to keep it free. Yeah.
Rick Roberts starts right now.
Everyone on Capitol Hill knows what the memo means, a Republican report from the House Intelligence Committee alleging abuses in the Justice Department's surveillance efforts regarding Russia's election meddling and possible ties to the Trump campaign. The Department of Justice has said release of the memo might compromise intelligence gathering operations. However, many GOP lawmakers are calling for its being made public. Rodney Davis of Illinois.
I saw it. I signed a non-disclosure agreement, so I can't discuss what was in the memo, but I can tell you the American people need to see it, and they need to know what is. Democrats
on the Intelligence Committee counter the memo is full of exaggerated claims and false information. Bob Costantini, Washington.
Okay, that courtesy of West One News. Yeah, wouldn't that be great? As a matter of fact, somebody give me an update, if you would. Give me an update as to the vote. They put a memo out about an hour ago. There may be a vote on releasing the memo, so let's check the wires and make sure that hasn't happened yet, or preferably has happened. The president will, after one full year in office, will give his first State of the Union speech. Don't look for it to be like any other State of the Union speech we've witnessed before with previous presidents. Don't think that's going to happen. He's not that way. I hope he doesn't stick to the script. I hope they turn the teleprompters off and they just simply go say, hey, tell the people what you've done in the first year, because you certainly wouldn't know by listening to the news, heavily biased against Trump. They haven't told you what he's done, have they? I mean, say for a couple of things that they couldn't ignore, they haven't told you anything. So, list off your accomplishments, and then maybe as a teaser, say, I've got a little something down here on the shelf behind the podium. Hang on a minute. What is this? Memo. Okay, we'll get to that in just a little bit. That's what I want to see. Call people out. Nancy Pelosi, what were you thinking when you said, I'm trying to make America white again? Simply calling something racist over and over and over and over and over and over again does not necessarily make it racist. As a matter of fact, you're doing a disservice to true racism. Is there true racism in this country? Of course there is. You can't shout racism down. You can only educate people out of it. But Democrats calling anybody, let alone a president, racist just because they're trying to find something doesn't make it necessarily so. So call her out on that. Call Chucky Schumer. Chucky, take your glasses off, come up here. Let's chat in front of all these people. How am I racist exactly? What specifically, Nancy Pelosi, other than trying to stir? This is exactly why. Let me roll my sleeves up here. Here's the problem. The black community didn't come out in force for Hillary Clinton in the last presidential election, like they have for time immemorial for the last half century, that scares the Democrats to death. Well, you can't blame them. Democrats have been promising the black communities so much for so long, and they've received very little, if anything, out of their votes. Why shouldn't they vote for somebody else? Now, they didn't go running to Trump. They just didn't vote. You know where the communities are. Go look in the black community. I mean, does it look like the Democrats are pouring federal funds into their schools, filling the potholes, getting rid of the crack houses, replacing streetlights? No. It's just, well, you're black, therefore you're going to vote for me, right? Because I'm Democrat, right? Yeah, we're buds. No. That's scared them. Well, what do we do? The same thing they're doing now as they did post-Civil War. Up until LBJ signed the 64 Civil Rights Act, and all of a sudden, Democrats are going to save us. The Democrats created the KKK. To get rid of radical Republicans and freed black men in the South. And then there was a shift when the covert racism reared its ugly head. They knew they couldn't be overt about it anymore. We'll just make the black community as dependent on government as possible and ensure the vote. Guess what? The black communities aren't that stupid. They're not going for that anymore. So Pelosi and the rest of the usual suspects, well, let's just keep calling Trump racist without citing anything specific. They'll just keep saying racist. Keep saying racist. Hello? Are you a Democrat? Say racist for me. Keep saying racist until some people believe it's true. All right. Okay. All right. Settle down, Rick. Gary in Arlington. Gary, thank you for waiting. What do you want to see the president do tomorrow in the State of the Union? Hello, Gary.
I want to see him name names and start thinking about the election coming up. We need to get the Senate back up to 60 votes, and we need to get the House of Representatives totally in control.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? That'd be nice. That'd be nice. But Democrats aren't going to take this lying down. And I'll tell you why.
If they're lying or standing, I want them to go after them big time.
Well, you got the guy. You got the president. If there's any president that will go after him, it's Donald Trump. But I'm telling you right now, the Democrats, they don't care about the facts anymore. Not that liberals ever did put a whole lot of stock in factual information, but the Democrats are on a quest. They're on a quest to make everybody in this country believe Donald Trump's a racist, and anybody that voted for Donald Trump is out of that basket of deplorables. They're racist too. Who'd you vote for? Trump. Racist! Who'd you vote for? Well, I didn't want Hillary, so, I kind of had to go with Trump. Racist! That's exactly what they're doing. Make no mistake about it. That is exactly what they're doing. Do you follow me? Do you hear what I'm saying? Yeah. All right. Let's go to where we're going. JD in Royce City. JD, thanks for waiting. How you doing, JD?
Thank you, Rick. Good to talk to you.
You too.
I think everybody's missing the mark on Nancy Pelosi's comments. I think that she's acknowledging that America once was white, and now it's not or becoming not. And basically she's acknowledging that there is an ongoing genocide in this country against white people. And it's being undertaken by government policy.
Yeah, I look at this. It's so convoluted, JD. I mean, you can't get a straight answer out of anyone. The Democrats really have no policy foundation at all. They're just simply trying to make up the loss that they experienced during the presidential election. I mean, that's the bottom line. 4:12 the time. Let's step aside very quickly for a check on your afternoon drive. I'm Rick Roberts, News Talk 820 WBAP.
reiterate what I said last night. That plan is a campaign to make America white again. It's a plan that says over 50% of the current legal immigration will be cut back, that many people will be sent out of the country.
All right. If you wanted to know, yeah, that's evidently why Trump is racist. According to Nancy, I've lost my ever-loving mind, Pelosi, his immigration plan is to make America white again. Oh, man. I don't even know what to say. Natalie in Wiley. Natalie, thanks for waiting. I appreciate your patience.
Thank you very much, Rick. I'm a little upset. Frankly, I'm very angry about what the Democrats have done to our country. I want President Trump to speak about all of his accomplishments over the past year. But what I'd love is if someone who is running the RNC or some kind of organization who can raise money for the commercials and ads to run an ad for at least a minute, maybe every 2 or 3 minutes before the State of the Union address, with all the comments from the Democrats, promises, and their divisiveness over the last 15 to, say, 40 years. It's on record. They're really good at using Trump's words. How about we use their words? I'm so sick of it. They have, I don't know what they've done to the African-American community. That is one area right there that you can see in numbers that Trump has done, has made great strides in the employment in that area. We need to double down like they always do. I'm just so angry. I don't know if I'm even being articulate enough.
You know what?
I'm sorry.
No, you're doing very, very well. And I know what it's like to talk when you're upset. I do it every day. But you're right. You're right. You know, as far as blacks and whites, you know, if politicians leave us alone, we get along pretty well. But if a politician is trying to garner a vote out of a white community or a black community or a mixed community, they drive wedges between us, or try to, you know, Black Lives Matter and things of that nature, of that ilk. And that's no way for people to get along. If you just leave us alone, we get along fine.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, I have family members who are Hispanic. I have family members who are African American. I have family members that are white. I mean, I don't personally know anyone, and most of them are conservatives, that are racist. Not one racist bone in their body. And I'm so sick and tired of the media and Democrats and everybody else telling us that we're racist.
Right.
I'm not a racist. I didn't raise my children to be racist. And frankly, thank God I didn't, because they're more open-minded, but they're conservative in their beliefs also, and include everyone. You can do that, you know.
But yeah, look,
you can be that way.
You know, there are black conservatives, white conservatives, tall, short, fat, thin, male, female conservatives, and the same goes for liberals. The only difference is the lamestream press covers just one. Nancy Pelosi making that ridiculous statement. He's trying to make America white again.
Well, let me just say this. I usually don't say anything ugly, but maybe she's one of those politicians that was on that pharmaceutical list for Alzheimer's medication.
It could be. You know what? And I'm not trying to be.
God forgive me. I'm so sorry.
No, he understands too. But I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you have to write. You can only turn so many cheeks, and then you just have to say, "Okay, I've had enough of your nonsense." Excuse me. Very good call, Natalie. I appreciate it, and I'll look forward to the next call. Let's go to Kevin in Mesquite. Kevin, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Kevin?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Good.
Good. So, State of the Union hit the facts. Unemployment amongst African Americans, Hispanics, lowest level. Illegal immigration at its low. ISIS basically defeated. But then about halfway through, he pulls out a piece of paper, and if the secret memo is as damaging as they say it is, he reads it verbatim. at the State of the Union.
Line by line, slowly, so everybody can soak it in like a sponge in the sink. I'm with you,
Exactly.
Kevin. Call him out by name. What's he got to lose?
Exactly. They already hate him anyway.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, no, so-and-so's going to dislike me after the State of the Union. You know, enough people don't like you right now. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain, like maybe getting control of the country again and getting rid of these backstabbing, narrative-pushing, agenda-driven Democrats. Get rid of them.
Exactly. I believe it would be the knockout punch to the opposition, like his statement to Hillary Clinton in the debate where he said, where she said, it's good that you're not in charge of the government, then he replied back, that's because you'd be in jail.
Exactly. Kevin, I don't know what peer group, what's your age?
I'm 27.
You're 27. How do most of your peer group feel? I would imagine they're in their 20s or early 30s.
You know, it's a mixed bag. There's a lot of us that are waking up to the reality that the far left agenda is damaging. I can tell you personally, I got a cousin of mine who was a far left liberal until he went into business for himself. Then he saw how much of his paycheck was taken out, and then that's when he became conservative.
Kevin, I appreciate the call. Yeah, I think before you can vote, you have to at least work one calendar year for someone that gives you a check stub so you can look at all those deductions and taxes. And you have to be responsible for another human being other than yourself for one calendar year. Funny how all that stuff changes. At 4:32 the time. Man, I can't wait for this. You know, I'm setting myself up to be disappointed. You know that, right? You know, I'm expecting Trump to come out like he did in the campaign, both barrels blazing, figuratively speaking, calling people out by name. I'm just expecting that. Again, what does he have to lose? He doesn't need the money. The house is smaller than what he has. He's got nothing to lose. Nothing. What do you want to see the president do? Let's go to Rich in Fort Worth. Rich, thanks for waiting. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Rick. I hope you're well.
Doing very well.
What I'm hoping to hear about is a lot about the wall tomorrow night. You know, a friend of mine made a comment last week that I thought was very interesting. He's talking about bailing water out of a leaking boat, and you're not going to get anywhere until you fix the leak, you know, meaning the border.
Right.
And, you know, as far as the illegals that are existing in the country, I'm going to try to put a positive spin on that. And I know that's not a popular topic with a lot of people right now, but if we get the border secured, obviously it's going to take a while for the wall to be built, but with increased security and whatnot. But when we have what's left over and we vet who's left, we get rid of the criminals. And then maybe, just maybe, we'll have enough hardworking people with the skill set that can get their citizenship, get to work legally, pay taxes, help the economy, and ironically stick it back to the Democrats by having a new voter base in the Latino community.
Well, that's one place where, you know, Trump certainly doesn't shine. He's, according to some polls, he's twice as popular now on that popularity vote than he was when he won an election with the African-American vote. Yeah, that would be something that they would certainly go after. You know, at some point, we just have to send the message to the American voters. This was never set up to be, nor is it now. You know, us sitting in the bleachers watching the Republican Party and the Democrat Party try to beat each other up on the field of play. That's not what this was supposed to be about. They're supposed to work together to make it a better country and way of life for all of us.
Absolutely. You know, I'm the son of a pair of immigrants from Italy. They came over. My dad came over when he was 11 years old after the Second World War. And, you know, they did all the right things. They got visas.
They went to work. They learned to speak English. They had to actually pass a test to get their citizenship. There was a book they had to study.
Right.
And they knew more about American history than a good number of Americans at that time. So, I mean, there's good people. I served with ethnicities of all walks of life when I was in the service. And, we do have a lot of good people. And don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here waving the flags saying that we ought to let them all stay. There definitely has to be some vetting. There has to be some sorting out of who can stay and who can't. Sometimes you just got to give something up to get the more important picture.
No, I totally understand, and I agree with what you're saying. That, this is a great country. Didn't happen by accident. Hasn't been maintained by accident. A lot of people have sacrificed a lot to have this country as we know it. If it's that important to you, then you should be required to do a few things to become a part of it. I mean, to me, that's common sense. Or, maybe it's not so common. Good call. I appreciate it, Rich, very, very much. Let's go to Charlie in Plano. Charlie, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Charlie?
Rick, thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
I'd like Trump to call out Lindsey Graham and Jeff Flake and then say, here's your sign.
Here's your sign.
Please stay away from every camera that they go running after. They're just making fools of themselves.
It's pretty sad, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, my grandparents came over from Mexico. They did it the right way. In fact, I've gotten to where all my friends and buddies, they want to call me Hispanic. I tell them I don't like the word Hispanic because it has the word panic in it.
Yeah.
But come from Latin descent and well-educated, and I just don't understand why everybody is trying to make a name for themselves with idiotic comments.
Well, I agree with that. I also, I'll tell you one of my other concerns. With all this talk about DACA and the Dreamers and immigration and the wall, we can't lose sight of other things that are important to the people of this country and the country itself. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly.
I mean, we've got, it's been brought up on the show today, but we've got veteran affairs to deal with. We've got education to deal with. We've got employment to deal with. I just don't want to get so caught up in immigration that we say, okay, well, we can only deal with one thing at a time. That's not true.
It's not true at all. I mean, my father fought in World War II and Korea, and he's got frostbite feet to prove it, and he doesn't get the best treatment either, even today.
Well, one of these days, I'll clear it through my program director. I'll play you Billy's call because I think it's important to remember there are victims, and they're not necessarily here from another country. They're victims of the government not holding up their end of the bargain when people enlisted to protect this country. I mean, we can't forget that either.
Yeah. I mean, in 1 year, I think Trump's done more than, in spite of all of the attacks and totally negative press coverage, it's amazing what he's accomplished so far.
Yeah. Whenever, I said it the other day, the media was against him. Every part of the media was against him. Television, radio, print media, the Democrats, obviously, many of those in his own party. It was like, and he was still moving forward, trying to get things done. You don't do that unless you care about the country. Good call, Charlie. I appreciate it. Let's go to Weldon in Weatherford. Weldon, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Weldon?
Just fine, Rick. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
I just want to make a few statements. We cannot allow people come across that border down there from Central America, South America, and even Mexico. That's the way you reculture and de-sovereignize a nation in a short period of time. It's called taking a country over without firing a shot. And there is definitely an agenda behind that, beyond a shadow of a doubt. And That's like Trump. The media pushes. They hate Trump. They hate Trump. They don't hate Trump because he's Trump or because he's white or blonde-headed. They hate Trump because he's American and he's for American people, American way of life.
Well, there's no doubt that there are those among us that don't believe America has a right to a culture or a language, for that matter. I disagree.
Yeah. Yeah, those people are either insane or they're just as much enemies to the American people as Nazi Hitler was. And he was a white man. And race does not enter into it because when Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, we didn't go after them because they was a different color, different shade of skin. We went after them to save this nation and American people, American way of life. And there's not near as much racism going on as the media would like you to think. Most black and white people get along, and brown, especially if they're Americans.
Oh, you're right. It's like I told a lady earlier. You know, if left alone, the races get along pretty well. We find a way to work out our differences, and whatever they are, and we get along. It's only when you inject politics or the media do we start to segregate once again, and the reason being. Politically, they need the races separated. It's easier to dominate for the votes as long as they're not. If I've got a next door neighbor that's black, if he and I are thinking critically, we may differ on some legislation, but if we're critically thinking, that's bad for the government. They want us not to like each other. That way, they can come at us as a camp. They're a camp, so they want us to build a camp as well. 4:42 the time. I'm Rick Roberts. All right, 4:47 the time. This is Eddie in Keller. Eddie, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Eddie?
Doing well, Rick. Thank you. I just want to make a really quick point. I mean, Democrats are constantly twisting what we say. And this is just one little example, but I'm sure there's a fraternity of, conservative talk show hosts and TV hosts, and I'd love for you to share with them a little bit more clear on immigration. So many times you hear a Democratic talking head, they say, Republicans are against immigration. Well, that's not true. We're against illegal immigration. So if every time we say it, we simply say, we're for legal immigration, we're against illegal immigration, then nobody can twist it around and say, oh, yeah, they just don't like anybody because they don't want immigrants. Every one of us have immigrants in our family. So, yeah. I don't know, one little point, but there's so many things like that. If we were just clearer when we talk, then they won't be able to twist it around.
I'm glad you brought that up because I've been using that as a point of contention for at least the last 15 years, especially. That's why I don't have politicians lined up around the building wanting to go on the air, because they know that, look, I'm sorry, I'm not Larry King. You don't get softballs. If you say the word immigration, you're going to have to define legal or illegal.
Amen. And you're really good about that, but so many are just not. And I don't understand it because, in fact, even when somebody says that, they don't correct them and say that's wrong.
Right.
We are for immigration. We're just against illegal. So anyway, don't want to belabor the point, but there's so many points like that. We just need to be clear.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. Listen, Eddie, I appreciate it. Look forward to the next call. JB in Fort Hood. How you doing, JB?
Hey, Rick, thanks for your program. And just comment the fact that I agree that I really think there's a subculture or folks that have just infiltrated the U.S. with a whole purpose of just changing our way of life. And we have so many good people from all over the world that have come here legally and really are hardworking, regardless of nationality, color, or everything else. They're for the American way, but you have so many, even that were born here, that now are just so emphatic about changing the fact that we're supposedly against all these things that we're against, and we're not. Just like the previous caller was saying, and they always generalize all these terms. But you continually come back and you say we're not. We shouldn't change our culture. I mean, it's worked for 200 plus years. Why change it now?
I will tell you, I was interviewing, and it's rare for me to interview congressmen. I mean, I know some, they're friends from a long time ago, but I was interviewing a Democratic congressman, and we were talking, immigration was not the subject. We were talking about something else, and immigration came up, and he said, immigrant. And I said, excuse me, do you mean legal immigrants or illegal immigrants? And I'm not kidding you a bit, his retort was, what's the difference?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I believe you. I really believe you, because there are so many good people from all over the world that have come here to follow the American dream. But you don't see anyone leaving the U.S. to go to live in China, North Korea, South America. You don't see that, Rick.
No.
And people, and just like your previous caller was saying, the distinction is legal versus illegal. And the fact that folks know, I've met people from so many different countries that in the military that just come here and work really hard and do well. And then there's people that just like this professor in California that was saying that the military are the lowest of the low. And he's Hispanic, I guess, because I'm Hispanic. I mean, but I'm going like, I can't believe this guy is saying this. He must be an idiot. He's a professor or a teacher or something.
Well, it's gone beyond the pale. It's gone beyond. Yeah. It's one of those things now that there's not even debate about. It was just like the pacifist when we went into to Iraq the first time, and they were calling America's waging war against the world and blah blah blah. And I asked a guy one time that called up and he was hammering how bad Bush was and this and that. And I said, let me ask you something. If somebody, and I'm not badgering you, sir, but if someone were to break into your home with your wife and kids asleep, would you not pick up a firearm and defend your family until help could arrive? And his response was simply, we don't believe in firearms. If it's supposed to happen, it's supposed to happen. And I thought to myself, man, am I glad I'm not one of his kids. That's things like that stick out to me because I don't even think the people saying that believe it.
Yeah, I just listen, man. You keep doing your good job. Continued blessings for your family, and keep talking about it, the United States, because I mean we're not the country that we've been portrayed as being. No. Every country in the world, regardless of the country, has its faults. But we certainly have given and just embraced so many people. But the fact that there are so many that just want to literally hurt us and change our way of life is just crazy.
Well, thank you for what you do too. I mean that sincerely, JB from Fort Hood. Look, no matter what the president says tomorrow night, he could come up to the podium and say, you know what, I'm going to give everybody $1,000. Good night. Drive safe. I'll see you later. Tip your waitress. Democrats are going to have something bad to say. The media is going to have something bad to say. He's going to be criticized. And when you know that going in, then what have you got to lose? Tell it exactly the way it is. Pelosi, I want to make the country white again. Unless you're off your meds or off your rocker, explain yourself. Chucky Schumer, in the course of a day, I can point out so many inaccuracies about how you report what is going on. It's not even funny. Oh, by the way, David, have we found out whether they voted yet or not?
No, we don't have a vote total yet.
Oh,
so no vote yet.
So no vote, or they have voted and we don't know?
We don't know.
Okay. Hopefully, well, what is it? In Washington, it's about 6 o'clock. Wouldn't that be great if they vote to release the memo tomorrow morning, put it on the president's desk about noon? He signed off and took it to the State of the Union address. Man, that's great. I hope he does it. I'm Rick Roberts. God's blessings on each and every one of you, whether we agree or not. That's always my priority. Mark Levin is next. I'll be back tomorrow, your afternoon drive, 2 to 5 on News Talk 820 WBAP.
And everybody else was just like us, soaking in the rain, baking in the sun. Don't quit till the job gets done. That's the only way I know. Don't stop till everything's gone. Straight ahead, never wide open. You get tired and you don't show it. Dig a little deeper when you